Meghan Markle in Paris. Rather more desperate than Emily in Paris and nowhere near as entertaining. It came out of the blue, utterly unexpected. Suddenly, the difficult Duchess was wafting through the most romantic city on earth, a vision in papal white, lending her regal presence to France's famous Fashion Week. Her first time at the shallow shows where thin models and thick men wear stupidly expensive clothes. Why was she there? Why did she leave her husband and children in Montecito to be seen at Gay Paris' legendary ode to haute couture? She says it was to pay tribute to her friend Paolo Piccioli, creative director of the House of Balenciaga. Attention-seeking as ever, she wore one of his outfits, a weird, cascading, bright white affair that made her look like a scruffy version of the Pope after a night on the tiles. At first, I thought she'd had trouble getting out of bed and just shoved her head through the sheets. But with a dreary inevitability, the paparazzi photographs made the front pages. So, mission accomplished, which one senses is why Meghan really flew nearly 6,000 miles from California to get noticed. You might think that, amid her ongoing war with the Prince and Princess of Wales, Ms Markle was smarting after the PR triumph of William's heartwarming TV chat with actor-turned-travel documentary maker Eugene Levy, in which Wills told of his family's most difficult year as Kate bravely fought cancer. You might think that in her battle for column inches, Meghan was manically trying to grab back the headlines. You might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. And could it be that while things appear to have gone ominously quiet on the as-ever front, with no talk whatsoever about how sales of her astronomically overpriced scam jam, honey, dried flowers and cookie dough are going, Meghan urgently needs to get herself and her baffling brand back in the papers. Am I being too cynical? You decide. And after Paris, Meghan and Harry went to New York to collect another honour they scarcely deserved, a Humanitarians of the Year award from the mental health organisation Project Healthy Minds. No one knows why. But back to Paris, where Meghan's catwalk scene experience was not quite an unmitigated success story. In Vogue, the American Duchess sadly was not. Were the designer label elite thrilled by the former TV game show Glamour Girl's arrival? Not particularly if Meghan's C-list companions were anything to go by. Oh, how the Hollywood wannabe tried to get to the top of the style crowd's ladder. At one point, when Harry's social mountaineer wife approached immaculately upper-crust British star Dame Kristin Scott Thomas, she was, in the politest possible way, blanked. The ageless, glamorous actress simply nodded, smiled, and continued her conversation. Meghan reduced to awkwardly simply standing there, dare I say it, like a spare. Here's to the effortlessly classy Christine. There ain't nothing like a dame. Paris Fashion Week, one of the premier get-togethers of the celebrity calendar, also boasted such top-of-the-range guests as Anne Hathaway, Baz Luhrmann, Emma Stone, Zendaya, and even reality queens Kendall and Kylie Jenner, none of whom the publicity-conscious Duchess of Sussex managed to get pictured with. As one observer commented, Paris didn't ignore Meghan, it simply showed her what she's been missing, the kind of grace that doesn't need an audience. But as we all know only too well, Meghan has always needed an audience, and it's safe to say always will. Meanwhile, another blow for Mr. Meghan, aka Prince Harry, as it emerges that Centre the African charity he helped to found but flounced out of in a racism row, has abandoned his favoured form of fundraising, posh polo events in Florida with his champagne-swilling multi-millionaire mates. The new directors are uncomfortable with what they always saw as patronising white saviorism, a charge, of course, that well-meaning, simple soul Harry vehemently denies. But never mind, eh? He's a Humanitarian of the Year. and so is the delighted Duchess. What precisely the gruesome twosome have done to be hailed for their boundless altruism remains something of a mystery. But there they were, two shining royal luminaries glowing at New York's 3rd annual World Mental Health Day Gala. Yay! Not since John Travolta presented him with his Legend of Aviation trophy has the petulant prince deserved such glorious recognition. Harry, the Legend of Aviation, who failed his helicopter pilot's test, has the dim Duke no shame.
Day after they published infamous photo of Duke and his accuser that he wants us to believe is fake, and long after he claims to have cut ties with a convicted paedophile, a very revealing email. Prince Andrew to Epstein, we are in this together. It's a massive story. Let's get reaction from the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, the wonderful and one and only Charlotte Griffiths. Charlotte, welcome to Talk. What's the story here?
Well, it's that Andrew said that he'd cut off all contact with Epstein, and of course he didn't. You know, much like Fergie the other day, Fergie said that Epstein was her supreme friend when she had apparently just told the world that she hated him and cut all contact with him. And now, of course, we find out that Andrew's done the same. And not only that, but he said that, you know, they'll play together soon. So actually he had intention to see him again, despite famously saying in 2019's Newsnight that he went to New York. Do you remember those infamous pictures of him talking with Epstein? There they are.
Going for a lovely walk in Central Park in their very smart sort of, you know, American apparel. Best mates.
Best mates. And then he said, no, that was just a breakup chat to Emily Maitlis. But of course, he then stayed in New York for 4 days at the time, which was slightly unconvincing breakup. And now we know definitively he sent an email saying, we'll play together soon. And also saying we'll rise above all this media backlash, because at the time, the Mail on Sunday had printed a picture of Andrew with Virginia Giuffre, with his arm around her. He's always claimed it's fake. My theory is, now we've seen that email, wouldn't the first email you would have sent if you were Prince Andrew to Epstein would be, whoa, there's a fake photo out there, where's this come from? But instead he said, oh, looks like we're in this together, which is a little bit suspicious if you ask me.
How much more damage can Andrew do to the royal family, or is the fact that he's a liability now priced in?
I think you're right. The fact his liability is priced in, but each email, each new revelation that comes is more and more embarrassing. The Supreme Friend one, which was only a few weeks ago, they're still completely reeling from that. And now there's this one. And I do think William, for one, is concerned that it could get worse. And I have to say, I always think it can't get worse, and it always does. So I think William might be right on the money there. The only option they have now is to cut him off stone cold, as you say, possibly even a council flat in Streatham. Definitely not a 30-room house, 30-room royal lodge, a prestigious property, you know, on the Great Windsor estate, which is actually bigger and more magnificent than Prince William's new place.
There you go. So that's about the only lever left at Charles's disposal as king, is to evict his brother from the royal lodge. There's not too much else he can do, is there? Because he's lost HRH. He's no longer a frontline serving royal, and I think it would take an act of parliament to strip him of his dukedom.
But yes, they could strip him of his dukedom, as you say. It would take an act of parliament. They could take away his garter. He's a Knight of the Garter. And what I found so interesting about this Epstein email is that he signed it off, KG, Knight of the Garter. So he's obviously very proud of this honour. He got it in 2006. So they could strip that away from him. But also they could have a stern word, which I think they might have already done, about Andrew turning up at royal funerals, Christmas church services. You know, he can't be seen in any of these events, and he can't be pictured with William. And the Duchess of Kent's funeral, he was pictured standing next to William. William looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him up.
And he was cracking jokes.
And he was joking around. He has no self-awareness. He obviously thinks he's completely innocent. I have to say, this new email makes him seem less innocent than ever before, really, because the photo now doesn't seem to be fake. The Mail on Sunday has been saying this for years. That photo is not fake. So I guess the current strategy is he's been told to be, quote, invisible. And I think he's got to be somehow even more invisible. If I were him, I would also go and do some charity work. Now, a lot of charities have distanced themselves from Fergie and probably wouldn't exactly want Andrew being their face, but he could just do some charitable activities. Instead, he plays golf, he goes shooting, he goes riding in full view of the British press and cameras. But he needs to do less of that. He needs to grow some self-awareness and live a more discreet life.
Yes, I think so. I think he should be in our city centres doing community service, perhaps removing graffiti from the walls or perhaps from your nearest cathedral. Perhaps he could be using one of those power sprays, those pressure washers, to get gum off the pavement. That would be a good use of his time. There is an issue for Charles, though, isn't there, Charlotte, which is internal family politics. If the king pushes the prince too far, his brother Andrew, then he could run off to America and do a Harry, write a book, a TV show, and spill the beans on the family.
I suppose he could. Andrew's got an amazing reputation in one tiny solitary respect. He never, ever slags off the royal family in private, behind Charles's back, in the press, anywhere. He is squeaky clean on that one front. So it would be explosive if he did. I think King Charles probably knows he wouldn't, because there's one thing Andrew believes in, it's the institution of the monarchy.
What if he's got no... What if he's been banished and he's angry and he's got no skin in the game? Plus, money's a motivating factor. I mean, you are there in the world of newspaper publishing. He would make millions, wouldn't he, if he wrote a book?
He would, and he is desperate for money because Fergie's just sold her £4 million Muse house in Belgravia. So
at a loss.
Very unexpected.
At a loss, because they're such great entrepreneurs, aren't they?
Well, exactly, at a loss, which does show they are desperate for money. So maybe, I suppose, if Oprah came a-knocking, Fergie's been there before, Andrew might do it. I think it's unlikely, but as you say, money and desperation create all sorts of bizarre scenarios. So maybe you're right to caution King Charles not to push his brother too far. But I think all King Charles wants his brother to do is move to Frogmore Cottage. It's not exactly a hovel. Meghan and Harry spent £2.4 million doing it up not so long ago. And he just wants him to not barge his way to the front of funerals, royal funerals, laughing and joking with Prince William. You know, that's not the kind of thing that Andrew should be angry about. Andrew should have some modicum of self-awareness and should be doing this anyway. He should be understanding his position naturally. It's just he cannot do so because he doesn't have a self-aware bone in his body.
He doesn't. Before we let you go, Charlotte, an interesting story in today's Sunday Times. King tells Harry end security row. The Duke of Sussex's renewal of his battle with the government over personal security risks derailing his reconciliation with the King. Sources close to Charles said that Harry's decision to lobby the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, asking for his taxpayer-funded security in the UK to be reviewed, complicates things for the King. Do you think that Harry will let this one go and accept that he's not going to have armed protection when he's in Britain?
I don't think Harry will ever let it go because he personally has seen a list of people who want to attack him, and he's very, very worried about it. And his mother died in a car crash in Paris, and he is absolutely not budging. What is surprising is that he's asked for another risk assessment because he knows that if he gets a risk assessment, he will definitely get police protection. So it's very unlikely he will get the risk assessment. And he knows it will wind his father up and those famous men in grey suits around his father. So it is an antagonistic move. But, you know, it's no surprise in some ways to Charles because Harry's made it very clear that he's obsessed about his security and his wife's safety, and he can't bring his wife over unless he has police protection. But I thought it was very interesting, those quotes in the Times, because they do sound like the kind of quotes that would come from one of these men in grey suits. They basically say, this is a bit of a setback. You know, we know Charles and Harry have met up recently, but because he's asked for security again, all this puts Charles in a very difficult position. That's the kind of thing that will rile Harry up no end, because it's the opinion of a man in a grey suit rather than, you know, possibly rather than King Charles's opinion. And that's exactly the kind of thing that makes Harry furious. So it could be that a row is brewing again.
The Sun on Sunday and the Mail on Sunday are running a massive exclusive on Prince Andrew. Sun on Sunday. Andrew bombshell, we're in this together.
Yeah, front page of the Sun on Sunday. It's an exclusive.
Yeah.
Do you know, the language is actually quite, how do I put it gently, vomit-inducing. There you are, not so gentle. So the background to this story is we know Prince Andrew gave this interview to BBC Newsnight back in November 2019. It's been well documented. They made films off the back of it as well. I think it kind of has kept Emily Maitler sadly in the spotlight. And he told BBC Newsnight that he had no contact with Epstein since December 2010. That's what he said. And viewers and listeners to Talk will remember it was that famous interview where he talked about never sweating. Do you remember that?
I did indeed.
Oh, I don't
It's a
sweat.
special condition.
Yeah, special condition. You have to
He's
fly
sweating now, isn't he?
choppers over the Falklands. I think he'll be having additional sweat this morning because it appears there's an email. So let's just recap the timeline to this. So November 2019, big interview. He thought it was a good idea to do this interview on BBC's Newsnight. He said he was on record as saying he had no contact with Epstein since December 2010. We have in the Sun today and also in the Mail what appears to be an email that was sent in February 2011, right? So a couple of years later, that's the timeline for people listening and watching this morning. And this went to Epstein, and it says the following: "I'm just as concerned for you, exclamation mark. Don't worry about me, exclamation mark." And this is the bit that I just think is really, really creepy. "It would seem we are in this together and we have to rise above it. Otherwise, keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon." Followed by 4 exclamation marks. So, front page of the Sun on Sunday, "We are in this together." That's the headline. You look at the actual rest of the text of this email that was sent to Epstein almost a couple of years after Andrew said he had ceased contact with him, saying, "We're in this together, keep in close touch, and we'll play some more soon." Do you know, for me, the word in that I find actually quite disturbing is play.
Well, isn't it? Jesus, that's a very chilling word.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And there's a brilliant piece here by Matt Wilkinson. He's the royal editor of The Sun on Sunday. And his opening paragraph, just giving some analysis to this, or rather comment. "Andrew's Jeffrey Epstein scandal will not go away, so maybe it's finally time the arrogant Duke did." And I find myself leaning towards this now. This man, Prince Andrew, is an embarrassment to the royal family. All right, the royal family's having a little bit of reinvention. You've got King Charles now. You've got William, who is doing some great stuff. I think the new face of the royals, talking about mental health. People might have seen the interview a couple of days ago. He almost broke down talking to someone whose partner was affected, well, who died as a result of ending their life. Okay, so you've got this image change that's going on. You've also got Prince Harry making life a little bit difficult for his dad still. There's some stories knocking around in the papers regarding that. Prince Andrew is just an embarrassment you don't need. And I think the time has come for him to do the decent thing. Go somewhere else. Where he goes, I don't know. I mean, he might still have some value or some kudos in the Middle East somewhere. I don't know. I don't know what you do with him. I don't know if he should set up his own brand of gin, because that's what a lot of people seem to do. But it's just like, just stop. Well, not even a case of stop digging. It's like, put away the JCB, all right? Clearly, what you said in this Newsnight interview is not standing up to scrutiny. The Sun has got a copy of this email you sent to someone a couple of years after you said you ceased contact. Probably it's time for you to disappear.
Most definitely, and unfortunately, he's got this toxic partnership with Sarah Ferguson. Because the issue is that she wrote a sort of grovelling email to, or was it a text message to Jeffrey Epstein as well. And again, after she'd said she'd cut off contact with the convicted paedophile. So the two of them are damaged goods. Charles can't do too much more, so they've lost HRH, and he's no longer a frontline serving royal. Do you think he should be banished from family occasions like funerals and weddings,
I think
church
that would,
services?
Yeah, I do. I think that would speak volumes. So, I mean, this is a fascinating story. And just so we're clear on the timeline, you know, he said that he'd had no contact with Epstein since December 2010, then this email was Feb 2011. So I said earlier, a couple of years later, it was a few months, that he was still in contact. But the point still remains, it appears that he wasn't telling the truth on camera, and it appears in the Sun on Sunday today that there is proof that he was still emailing this bloke he said he wasn't in contact with.
Is it a dilemma for Charles, though? Because if Charles pushes Andrew too far, he could do a Prince Harry. He could run off to America. He could write a book. He could do a documentary about the royal family on Netflix. He would make millions.
That's an interesting thought, isn't it? Do you not think that space has been taken by Huzzah?
Well, I mean, if you're the commissioning editor at HarperCollins, are you going to have that conversation?
Yeah.
You know, if his people reached out, do you take that call?
It would be dynamite, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
It would be dynamite.
You know, Andrew, my story. I mean, it would be the most risible tome ever written, immediately worthy of pulping and the bargain basement.
But what would his story be?
Well, this is the issue, which is he knows, and I certainly don't seek to defend him, but he's a member of the royal family, he's the king's brother, he knows where the bodies are buried.
That's very true, and he could probably give an inside track on royal life and
oh
the
my
stuff
goodness,
that we don't know
Andrew
about.
on Diana, Andrew on his brother the king, Andrew on Anne, Andrew on Harry. I mean, seriously, I'm actually salivating and I've got dollar signs ringing in my eyes. Now, I hope he's not listening to Talk Breakfast, because I don't want to give him ideas. But would that not be in the back of the mind of King Charles? Because if he's completely banished and excommunicated, at that point, he's got no skin in the game.
I think you're right. I mean, it would be. I find myself in a difficult position because I think that would be the worst thing that he could possibly do. Yeah, I would buy the book, right? Who wouldn't buy the book?
And we talk about it on the show.
And we talk about it at length. So I think it's interesting. If we were dealing with another kind of personality, and I know some people who worked in the RAF who on the planes that he used to kind of like be ferried around in, and you know, so if you're in a property or indeed in a vehicle and there's a member of the royal family, you have the royal standard flying, right? That's what you need to do. And I've got to choose my words a little bit carefully. A plane would be landing somewhere in West London at 3:30 in the morning, right? Everyone being absolutely knackered and thinking we just need to go home. And he would be on board, and he would still expect people to put up the royal standard. That's the little the flag that would come out not come out the top, but you put the royal standard up just above the cockpit, and expect everyone to be down on the tarmac saluting him at 3:30 in the morning, right, and bowing to him. And there was a kind of view that he just, like most normal people would go, it's all right, lads, we've had a knackering flight, let's just go home. But he still expected that kind of thing to happen. So I've heard stories about him being quite arrogant, quite aloof, and quite rude. And I only make that point not to assassinate his character, because I think he's doing quite a good job of that himself at the moment. But if we were talking about a different kind of personality, you would think that he would just step back from the royal occasions. He'd go, do you know what, for the good of the firm, as they call it, the royal family, I probably won't attend church on Christmas Day morning because it won't do you any favours. But we're not dealing with that kind of personality. And so consequently, it's down to Charles to decide, well, you know, what do I do to limit this damage, this ongoing damage to the royal family?
Fascinated to get your take on Meghan's recent trip to Paris Fashion Week, where she tried to get in with all the top people there, but didn't really manage it. She didn't really manage to get photographed with anybody who mattered that much. And subsequent to that, and of course at one point she was pictured driving in her limo past the tunnel where poor Diana died, and she's got her feet up on the back seat. So a lot of people made a lot of that and said, well, that seems disrespectful. Perhaps she wasn't even thinking, who knows? But since that trip, Lady C, Harry has let it be known through friends that he's furious that Paris is being used as a stick to beat Meghan with, because people are saying, oh, the Diana connection and all this kind of stuff. He's angry about this. Well, my thought about that, Lady C, would be this. Well, Meghan, don't go to Paris then. Then you won't get all this talk. So what's your feeling? I fear that she went to Paris because she knew about the Diana connection and she thought that might get her lots and lots of coverage. What are your feelings, Lady C?
Well, I find it very interesting that he has made this comment through his friends, because both Harry and Meghan have previously stated that they wouldn't go to Paris because of the connection with their mother, with his mother. So their inconsistency yet again is so obvious that, I mean, you just hang your head and wonder, well, why is it that today the sun sets in the west and rises in the east, and tomorrow it does the opposite?
Yeah. Exactly right. As I say, I'm not saying Meghan shouldn't ever go to Paris, but she must know, and Harry must know, that there's something provocative about Meghan being in Paris, driving past the tunnel where poor Diana died with her feet up. The whole thing, the whole Paris thing. She was once quoted as saying that Harry and I can't ever go to the French capital because of Harry's mom, as they say in America. And that seemed to be a reasonable viewpoint. But there she was, not this weekend just gone, but the weekend before, at the Paris fashion shows, making a real splash of being in Paris, a place where she said she could never go because of Harry's mom. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, but it also makes sound sense if you realize that you're dealing with arch manipulators who will do anything to remain in the news. And especially at this time when Victoria Beckham is in the news, and Victoria Beckham is being, her Netflix show is doing so well. And you notice Meghan has all of a sudden started to do a cosplay of Victoria Beckham, you know, never smiling and very sweet and everything. So that's the latest imitation that she's about. But I think the whole thing was done deliberately. I think that they knew exactly what they were doing. Let's remember, they are in danger of being totally dumped by Netflix. As it is, anything that they have to deal with Netflix is on a submission basis. So there's no money there of any consequence. And they have her Christmas show coming up. And I think they're really worried because everything that they have done so far has flopped. The only thing that worked with either of them was the very first show on their lives. I think it was a 6-parter, but everything else has flopped. And I understand that they're in pretty serious trouble financially, which of course they would be, because they don't have any money coming in of any significance to maintain the lifestyle that they have.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not making money out of anything. And she even approached the designer of Balenciaga. You know, he didn't approach her, she approached him.
Yeah, his name's Pier Paolo Piccioli. And yes, she said she went there to pay tribute. Said she went to Paris to pay tribute to him, but nobody's really buying that. Anyway, so she was there. She was there on her own, of course. She left and then came back to California, and then this past weekend, both of them went to New York to receive from an organisation called Project Healthy Minds, to receive Humanitarians of the Year awards. Do you think, Lady C, they deserve a Humanitarian of the Year award? Because I can't for the life of me think why anybody would think that they warranted such an honour. What do you think?
Well, it's not an honour. First of all, Project Human Minds is not a charity. It is a non-profit, but it is a company. Mm-hmm. It's in business and in partnership with Archuel, which is also basically a non-profit, but a company. Archuel does have a limited charity line, but it's basically a tax squeeze. So first of all, it's not a charity. It's, and it's a very small company. I think its income last year, the last published figures were $2.5 million, of which $1.5 million were taken out in expenses. So you're really dealing with a con. It's a con. And do they deserve the award? Well, they deserve awards for being anti-humanitarian. because they're definitely going to win.
Well, of course, Prince Harry. I mean, he'll go to the ends of the earth for the opening of an envelope, particularly if he's going to be given an award. And you remember, was it last year or the year before, when John Travolta in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, presented him with a Legend of Aviation award. Harry got a Legend of Aviation award. This was a man who couldn't pass his army helicopter pilot's test. So he's no slouch at receiving awards which he thoroughly doesn't deserve, is he?
Well, let's not forget as well that the mother of the guy who
Mary Tillman.
Yes, she strongly objected to the award, but they still brazenly showed up.
That's right.
It's a business model. It's just a business model, and they're playing it for column inches. It's, either they're going to do something like this, or they're going to pay a firm like Sunshine Sachs, which they paid $2.5 million to, and then had trouble settling their final invoice, so ended up being parting ways. And so they're either going to have to buy publicity one way, or they're going to buy it another. But they don't seem to understand that their business model isn't working, because they get a lot of publicity, but it doesn't actually convert into proper dollars and cents, does it? All of their business enterprises keep on flopping, except for his book, which earned him a lot of money, and that show on their lives, which earned them some money. Yeah. And that was a success, but everything has been a failure.
Yeah, that show was called Harry and Meghan, I seem to remember, imaginatively. But what about, so they go to New York to receive this undeserved humanitarian award, Humanitarians of the Year award, right? So this was on Friday. They both pitched up in Manhattan. Saturday night, they both went out for dinner separately, not together. The Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, dined with her friend Serena Williams at New York's Soho House, whereas Prince Harry was just making a series of individual appearances. So what do you make of that? I mean, don't you think that's strange? You both go to New York for the weekend. I know they're busy people, they're in demand, but you'd have thought, if it was a very happy marriage, they'd have gone out for dinner together on a Saturday night in New York, don't you think?
Not necessarily, in fairness to them. I mean, this is a business. They are a business, and they're going to get far more attention if they go out separately than together. They have perfected the art of getting everybody to talk about them. It's actually brilliant public relations, if you think about it.
Except they don't get that much positive publicity, do they?
Right, but they don't care, because remember, there's a school of thought that all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. That's what I always say. As long as they spell your name correctly, you're in business. But what do you think about Meghan's? I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, why did she go to Paris? To get noticed. She needs to get noticed because her as ever sort of online domestic product store selling jam and cookie dough and dried flowers and wine and honey for astronomically expensive prices. A lot of people feel that business isn't doing very well, to say the least, and that she was trying to drum up publicity to try to direct attention at her ailing business. What do you think is the state of play with As Ever, Lady C?
Well, I think it's a turkey, and it's a turkey that will hopefully be slaughtered before the end of the year. But I also think that she, aside from their need for publicity and her personal need for attention, I mean, she is a junkie. She is a film junkie. But I think aside from that, there is the fact that, you know, well, I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous.
It is, isn't it? Do you know what I always say, Lady C, is this, right? So this is she's trying to sell you jam and honey. Jam is like, what is it, $14 or something ridiculous. Cookie dough for $14. If you get some of the wine, you have to buy 3 bottles. It's going to cost you about $120 with packaging and shipping. But my thought about it is, so she's selling these mundane domestic products, jam, marmalade, honey, cookie dough, dried flowers, etc., etc., for very expensive prices. So if you're going to buy them as ever, you've got to fill out the form online, you've got to put your credit card in, then you've got to wait 3 weeks and you'll be lucky whether or not they'll turn up or not. Whereas you could go next door to your corner grocery shop, your corner grocery store, and buy all those products in 3 minutes for a fraction of the price. Her business model, I think, is kind of insane. I just don't see how it could possibly work.
Well, it doesn't. It isn't insane, and it hasn't worked. And that's the point. It hasn't worked. So my reading of the situation is that she is trying to branch out into the field that I suggested some months ago that is her natural fit.
Fashion, yeah.
Fashion.
Yeah.
Get a hookup with some company in Hong Kong that's going to make dresses for $3.99 that she sells for $199.99, and she makes a profit. I think that's the natural direction in which she should be heading, whether she's going to head in it or not. But the reality is that she is so unpopular. I mean, she's very good at getting press attention, but she's not popular. She's disliked intensely. And when you're selling anything as a personality, people want to buy it because they like you,
yes,
or because they envy you, and they want to aspire to your style and to what they want to buy a part of your dream.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to buy a part of her nightmare.
That's exactly it. You know, celebrity brand products, perfectly good idea, you know, like Gwyneth Paltrow or Dolly Parton or whoever. If the celebrity is popular, then people will want to have a slice of the action. I've always said exactly what you've just said. Meghan Markle isn't popular enough to sustain a celebrity brand. People aren't going to go out of their way to buy Meghan wine or Meghan cookie dough. So it's an extraordinary situation, and I think that, as ever, isn't going to last forever, to say the least. I think you're right. I think it's on the way out. Heard a story, by the way, that you might be interested in, that a certain film company trying to make a documentary about her ordered recently, this is in the last couple of weeks, every single product on As Ever, every single one. After 2 weeks, they got back a message, we can supply you with the wine, but nothing else. So nothing else was available except some wine. This isn't working, is it?
But also, people have from the very outset, they have bought items that they never got delivery of. Then they have tried to get back their money, and some of them haven't got back their money. But I explained at the time that the reason why things had sold out quickly, because I come from a mercantile family,
sure,
so I know a little bit about merchandising. And, you know, the reason why things sold out so quickly was because Netflix had no faith in her ability to ship products.
Yeah.
So they had very short, shall we say, print runs. If it's a book, you'd have a short print run or a low print run, and that's what has happened. And the items that the other people they've not been able to fulfill the items because there's no profit margin in any of this.
No.
The profit margin comes with volume. It doesn't come with selling 2,000 or 3,000.
Exactly right. Exactly right. A couple of last questions there, Lady C. Always great to have you on the show. Thank you so much. First question. Do you feel, a lot of people saying there she was in Paris on her own. They went out separately in New York. Apparently, throughout this past weekend in New York, even for all I've seen some of the pictures, I see what people are saying, that Harry looked like he was grinning through gritted teeth. He looked like he was constantly furious. That's what people were saying. Do you think there may be some trouble in that marriage?
There's always been trouble in the marriage. And in the early days, she had him well controlled. But I don't think she has him quite as well controlled all the time now. But the marriage has always been troubled because they're both very troubled individuals and they're very troubling individuals. But I would respectfully submit that Harry and Meghan are setting out at this juncture to create as much speculation as possible
to get written about. Yeah. Can I ask you a last question? Harry, incredibly, you know about his long-running legal battle with Britain to be given armed police guards whenever he visits this country. He's failed and failed and failed. He's appealed, failed, appealed again, failed. It's cost him millions and millions of dollars. Been told, no, you're not getting that. You're not a frontline royal, therefore you don't warrant it. He has written to the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and asked her once again for armed police protection when he comes to this country. Why can't he understand he's never going to get it?
Again, Kevin, it's a very clever ploy. This is a way of keeping themselves in the news. This also, my understanding is, that Meghan does not want to come back to this country.
Yeah.
And this is a brilliant way of making sure that they have the perfect excuse to not come back. And also, remember, both Harry and Meghan have said she and the children will be at risk if they come to this country without security.
Yeah.
Well, notwithstanding the fact that they would be at a royal palace, which automatically has security.
Pretty secure, yeah.
So I mean, that is all a huge red herring. The fact of the matter is, Meghan and Harry don't want the children to come back to the country because they don't want too much scrutiny.
Yeah.
I mean, the children are the biggest subject that Buckingham Palace receives letters on. And I think this is all a very convenient series of red herrings thrown in the path of people for them to think, and it also creates a victim narrative for Meghan and Harry to be getting on with. Because Harry did say that he had accepted the decision, but now and let's remember, he's married to one of the top lawyers of all time. Rachel Zane is a top lawyer. And Rachel Zane is a very top left-wing lawyer who also is obviously a colleague of Shabana Mahmood, who's another top left-wing lawyer.
A suits lawyer, yeah, indeed.
Oh, absolutely. So they have all that nice dynamic going on together. And I think the whole thing is slamming the buttons for people to talk about them, and it's a victim narrative, and
Yeah, they
Then
love that. What you said earlier, the thing about her is she is kind of addicted to fame. You called her a fame junkie. I think that's a very perceptive thing to say. It's true. It's true that she just loves to be in the papers. Hence these weird trips she keeps making.
Friends of the Sussexes say Meghan's decision to stage her latest relaunch in Paris has raised serious concerns, like, has she lost her mind concerns. The French capital, they note, is far from a neutral setting for Prince Harry. It's a literal crime scene. According to one insider, those close to the couple are so astonished by the move, pointing out that both Harry and Meghan have repeatedly declined invitations to attend Paris events in recent years. The reason has always been the same: the city's heartbreaking connection to the death of Harry's mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. A source told the Daily Mail there was always a firm line from him, a complete blanket no. Harry made it very clear he wouldn't go to Paris because of his mother. The same insider added Meghan would explain when asked, I cannot go to Paris because of H's mom. Well, that didn't last long. One of Harry's friends reportedly remarked, she's driving around in that city where his mother died. She knows exactly what she's doing. Those close to the prince believe that the trip underscores Meghan's need for attention and have expressed concern about the state of the couple's relationship, saying, Harry must have been sick from trauma and worry. I simply cannot understand it. Another added, they want different things, and there are times when it is really not great. I mean, really not great at all. Adding to the tension, Balenciaga's new creative director revealed to The Cut magazine that Meghan invited herself to his Paris fashion show, despite Harry's long-held aversion to the city, explaining, Meghan and I met some years ago, and we've been texting ever since. She reached out and said she'd love to come to the show. There was no strategy or big orchestration. I didn't tell anyone she was coming because I wanted it to stay a surprise. In fashion, real surprises are rare, and this was beautiful. Yes, a beautiful betrayal. The Daily Beast notes how Balenciaga's new guy's comments seem to distance the brand from the jam salesperson, saying Meghan sees herself as a great friend and collaborator of the legendary designer. He sees her as someone he has texted with a bunch. Other article highlights include this paragraph. Of course, Meghan, it has been observed before, has unusual ideas about what constitutes a friend. In her Netflix cooking show, she was shown buying several hundreds of dollars worth of books in a bookstore for a child of a mystery new friend who turned out to be Queer Eye's Tan France. She then prepared an elaborate fruit platter to greet him, but the gestures played not as generous, but as staged when, upon arrival, the friends greeted each other with a mutual, slightly shamefaced mumbling of, so nice to meet you. The credibility of the show's central premise that Meghan is a cool person with loads of friends whom she loves entertaining collapsed under the weight of that ridiculous moment. Two people who'd never met playing lifelong confidants for the sake of 40 minutes of television. Tom Sykes, you are preaching to the choir, okay? He added, I have long felt that Meghan's tendency to massively exaggerate the depth of her relationship with various dear friends was a liability that was going to trip her up one day. And now, here it is. Prince William, he reunites with Rhiannon Manning. And this is Rhiannon Manning, who lost her sweet baby, George, in 2012 to an undiagnosed illness. Within less than a week, she loses her husband, Paul. He's so overwhelmed with grief that he takes his own life because he's blaming himself for his son's death. This is not the first time Prince William has met with Miss Manning's. She interviewed him, actually. What an interesting flip there is. That idea was to have them change positions, and it just showed, I thought, a lot of grace and strength from the Prince of Wales to see him emotional about her story.
Yeah, and it's something that, I mean, I had a cousin, and actually the Princess of Wales, well, Diana, came to the funeral of a friend of my cousin's son who, well, died of infant death syndrome back in the early 90s. So I'm fully aware of the impact this has on people and the impact it had on my cousin. And I do know that the Princess Diana turned up at the funeral, and the eldest sister is I'm a goddaughter too. So, and the context of this story is she came back from Korea, and obviously there was a lot going on, but she made a great effort to come to the funeral of my cousin's child who died of this, and the impact this sort of this sudden cot death, to call it the simple sort of slang term, is just horrific, the impact it has on families. And I can immediately understand why William would be so emotional, because he's got small children and we all worry about it. But when it comes home, you know, his mother showed great care and sympathy to my cousin's family, and was a great source of comfort. So in many ways, hearing and reading that, it brought home what I remember as a very personal experience. My cousin, who was like my brother, had went through this, and the pain that he went through, and remember, you know, talking about the experience of finding your child in this distressed state. I mean, it beggars belief. So you can fully understand why the Princess of Wales's son is emotional, because he's got 3 children, and he's probably, let's be honest, on a bit of an emotional roller coaster anyway, when you know that your family members, there's a lot going on. And when you hear the rawness of that story, you've got to be pretty brutal if you can't find any compassion. And what it was good to see, it was not fake, it was genuine compassion. And the tears were heartfelt. And it brought home to me the memories from something back in the early 90s from a family perspective. And to see William sort of reliving and sharing his moments was very touching indeed.
It does feel like there's a narrative that's been built since Megxit of that Prince William is more like his father, Prince Harry is more like his mother. So that's interesting for me to hear your recollection, your personal experience, and how that personal experience leads you to feel like Prince William does have some of his mother's most charming and endearing qualities.
I don't think, well, it's there for all to see. We've seen it in his, well, the holiday video thing, you know, when he's with Eugene Levy, the sort of naturalness and that. But then you see the side that's important, and mental health. And then he's saying that how important that his wife has been in sort of bringing all the strands together and making sure that there is a focus to what they're trying to do. So I must admit, it was an interesting video to watch and understand what he was going through. And, you know, I know that there was charities after set up and to try and help, and very important, because it's one of the great mysteries, this sudden cot death or sudden death syndrome, that you just, for some inexplicable reason, something happens. Of course, there's been lots of research and things maybe have moved on since the early 90s. But I think and this woman still raw, 10 years or however many years it is on, you know, the family devastated. Now the children are older and, you know, regrouped, and it must have been horrendous. But, you know, to have that happen, that double whammy within 5 days of absolute raw tragedy, beggars belief. And my heart goes out to that lady and what she went through. And at the same time, Prince William showed his very natural caring side by listening to her and reflecting on it with her. And I think it's very important we see that human side of the royal family. We do it, you know, crying is not something they do naturally, but in public it's the stiff upper lip, and we, you know, don't show our emotion. But William doing that definitely has given it an element. We know Harry's cried occasionally. So I think it was a really touching thing to see, and as I say, brought home raw memories for me, and something, as I say, with William's mother involved.
Today's been a wild day in the royal watching community.
Oh my God! Well, let's. I want to start. Can I start with the Giuffre book and get to Harry and Meghan at the end, or do you? Well, actually, you pick. You're in charge. It's your channel. What would you like me to do? I'll be your pool boy.
Well, let's talk about this Sun's amazing exclusive. Prince Andrew, according to Virginia's new book, what he felt like he was entitled.
Can we just say, so Virginia Giuffre was the girl who
was apparently, trafficked out to Epstein's Island, always alleged that she had sex with Prince Andrew, something that he vehemently denied. But of course we had that unedifying Newsnight video interview, and then he paid her £11 million, and everybody went, well, that means that you're guilty. She died some months ago, and yet her book, what's it called, the book?
The book is called, she wrote it in April. How am I spacing? It's like Lost Girl, or I'm gonna have to look it up. It's something similar to that, but I'm so sorry that I'm spacing on the title of it.
No, I don't know either, and Ryan's in the toilet where he always is. But in the book being serialised in The Sun tomorrow, one of the accusations from Virginia Giuffre that Prince Andrew was entitled and saw having sex with his abuse accuser Giuffre as his birthright. Wow.
Yes. Well, I think one of the most, she goes into 3 separate occasions in this book where she claims she was trafficked to have sex with Andrew. And I think, disturbingly, one of the worst parts for me is she tells a story about Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly praising her the morning after their first encounter, saying, "You did well. The prince had fun." I hate that language because that language reminds me of the email that Prince Andrew, we've seen in the last few days that Prince Andrew sent Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, it's just that the language is very similar, like having fun, playing. I mean, these are grown people dealing with, in some cases, young teenage girls.
I actually have the name, darling. It's Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice. Now, it is not for me. I mean, you might have a stronger opinion. I've made my feelings about Andrew very well known, and any young person put in that position and their lives are tainted forever. We've heard different sides to this story, but my question is, what did she say? It was also expected to claim the Duke said thank you in a clipped British accent after the alleged encounter. Do we know how old she was?
17 at during the first encounter, allegedly.
Your bit about Ghislaine Maxwell, you did well. The prince had fun. Jesus. I know, sick. In terms of you and I and the way that we talk, always honest and candid with each other, I know that people always say, oh, he went. Isn't it time that this disgrace of a man literally was thrown to the wolves by his brother? You're going to tell me he won't do that because of his late mother, but how much more disgust and disgrace can he bring to the royal family? Those pictures, weren't there, at the Duchess of Kent's funeral a couple of weeks ago? No doubt Prince William, when he becomes king, will completely throw him out of the royal firm. But I'm surprised that Charles doesn't. I mean, enough is enough, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to, everything I say to you, I want you to know is coming from a place of hearing whispers that Prince Andrew's mental health is struggling through all of this. So I dance around certain things because I'm cautious of that, because I do believe that to be true. I trust my sources that say this is, that he's unraveling over all of this, that it just continues.
I would only say, and I'm not, me, we talk honestly, and I didn't know the woman and I don't know who I believe, but what about Virginia Giuffre's mental stability in the last moments? I don't know.
No, absolutely. And actions have consequences, but I just would never want to say something or rile something up that would cause him any more harm. No. So I want to say coming from that place. What I will say is, what could you potentially be unleashing if you cut Prince Andrew and Fergie off? How many books can they write? How many secrets can they sell? If you think Harry and Meghan are bad, wait until Prince Andrew and Fergie need a lifeline, and they go to publishers and they go to Netflix and they go to whoever for a quick buck.
Do you think they do that?
I do think that if they
push came to shove,
lost their home, if they lost their families, what do you have left? I mean, Harry and Meghan are greedy, but I also see their actions as an act of desperation. And so and you know what? Fergie has written books. It's why Diana wasn't talking to her at the end of her life, because Fergie wrote about Diana's shoes giving her warts. So we know they're not above selling secrets. And so I say to you, what more can they do? If they strip him of their titles, of his remaining titles, then that is months, if not years, of those headlines.
What about Celebrity Big Brother?
Yes, I can see them doing that.
I mean, I literally could see that. I mean, I make that point actually a serious point. I completely agree with you. And I used to say when we were talking about this that when I said it all the time to you, he must have so much that he could spill, and a desperate person will resort to desperate things, and he is an entitled human being, and I suspect that if the gravy train finally ground to a halt and went into reverse, you know, they would be concerned. As to the impact of everything, yeah, I've heard that many times, and there's lots of people. The only thing I would say and I don't want to be like what you said as well, but you do wonder why people always roll that out, certain people, when the going gets really tough. You know, that's all I would say. You know, when he was doing Newsnight, was he impacted to the fact that his mental health, maybe the walls are closing in, the truth is coming home to roost, and it's very difficult to deal with. But it'll be an interesting...
Speaking of Newsnight, we catch him in a lie blatantly in Newsnight when he says, "I've completely cut Jeffrey Epstein off." Well, here's your digital footprint that says otherwise. And if he's capable of lying about this, what else is he capable of lying about?
Why did you, let's be honest, why did you pay her $11 million? I can categorically tell you with my hand on my heart that if somebody accused me of something and deep in my heart and soul I knew that that was a fabricated thing, I would not be paying them $11 million. I go bankrupt and lose everything to prove that my word was my bond. That's it.
Well, to be fair, he did say prior to that payment that he was going to fight it in a court of law, and we believe that the Queen didn't want a member of the royal family sitting in a witness box.
Oh, bless her. Okay, the other main news story, I mean, how can we get away without talking about today, or rather yesterday, Meghan Markle.
No, wait. That's yesterday's news, JK. Today, she won a gold award in the Business People and Entrepreneurs Shaping Culture category of the Signal Awards, which aims to recognize meaningful podcasts. Another award for Meghan.
Sorry, can we just let's just slow this down, right? Just repeat the award that numpty won today. Read it to me. What did you say? What's it called?
Business People. AKA Nepo wives, Business People and Entrepreneurs Shaping Culture for having a meaningful podcast is what this award is for.
Jesus. Yesterday, which I was on, that today just highlights more, compared herself to the Obamas as she tried to put a positive spin on her Netflix woe. Another jab at the royal family. This is Meghan Sparkle. Have a listen.
My husband and I were in an overall deal with Netflix, and then not dissimilar to Higher Ground and the Obamas deal. Once that had come to its term, the extension of it, which was such an incredible sign of the strength of our partnership, was now being in a first look deal, which is also exciting because it gives us flexibility to go to our partners first, and then at the same time to be able to shop content that might not be the right fit for Netflix but has a home somewhere else.
I know we do this a lot. I mean, I used to sit here and say, God, she's a piece of work, isn't she? She's actually good, isn't she? I mean, she's not good. No, listen, not... She whether she's deranged, delusional, or has mythomania, actually, like Mike Graham said about Keir Starmer, I mean, she goes out there and fronts it out. And the sort of, the wets, the lefties, the sort of, you know, the people who will always be, they'll abort that. I mean, it's blatantly true that she's not telling, I mean, you can see she's not telling the truth, but that woman sat there in awe of her that's interviewing her, and people in those audience go, oh my God, she's just amazing. Why doesn't the whole world see her for what she is, which is a liar?
Meghan Markle, MD, the spin doctor, we've all been waiting for. Yeah, because what she's asked right there is, can we expect a season 3 from your Netflix show? And she physically squirms in her chair, tries to divert attention and go, oh, well, I've got a Christmas special coming out. We realize that season 3 is likely not on the horizon. Comparing herself to the Obamas, yeah, I mean, you could tell that she practiced that answer over and over and over
in
again.
The mirror.
Through the delivery. But no, I mean, it's a demotion. It was a demotion. And I can also tell that she's read Girl Boss for Dummies or some sort of entrepreneurial book, and she just highlights keywords like Q4 and why she I lost count of how many times she says learns. Girl, just say you learned something. She's always like, well,
Girl,
you know,
just
there's
say
so
you
many
learned
words.
something. I love that.
Kev, Meghan Markle has kept us pretty busy over the last few weeks. You had a friend on, and I'm so sorry, I forgot his name. It starts with an A, but he is a film and television reviewer. And that one time where he talked about Meghan relentlessly cutting the fruit on her show.
Oh, no, Ali Ross. Ali Ross.
Ali Ross, that's right, Ali Ross. Relentless is like the best way I know how to describe Meghan Markle at the end of 2025.
Yeah, as Ali Ross, the brilliant TV critic of the Sun newspaper here in Britain, and he did say that if you watched With Love Meghan, she spends most of the time just relentlessly chopping vegetables and fruit. And once you've got that in your mind, you can never watch that programme the same again. It's just this. And you're right, there is something, and that feeds into her personality. She is relentless. I think right now, her life is an utter mess. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She's just sort of lashing out, trying this, trying that. I think, as ever, quite clearly has been the disaster we always said it would be. And now God knows what she's up to. The Paris trip, the New York trip. It's all very, very strange, but it smacks to me of a woman who is lost, who is desperately trying to find something to do, something that will make her lots of money, but can't quite do that. It's almost sad to see.
Kev, Meghan uploads this video after the New York trip because she's heading to Washington, D.C. for for some other prestigious event that she doesn't belong at. And it's interesting to watch her recap video of New York because this trip to NYC was meant to highlight Meghan's alleged work related to mental health and the tragic death of children. But sharing such trivial and shallow content, like Meghan walking through her closet and looking at her clothes, all of her high heels lined up, just looking at how void this is, I feel like it completely undermines that cause of, protecting children online, making the entire visit feel superficial and insincere. But I look at this, I mean, she's laughing backstage when she's about to receive an award and everybody in that room is remembering dead babies. I mean, I think that that's totally inappropriate. But I think this is the real Meghan Markle, totally self-consumed and wholly committed to the prove it game that she told Jamie Kern-Lima she forfeited. I'd like to know what your initial thoughts were after you watched that Instagram video.
Yeah, inappropriate because, I mean, we all sort of laughed at the fact that Harry and Meghan were going to be awarded Humanitarians of the Year trophies by Project Healthy Minds. I mean, that's just a joke. But Project Healthy Minds, is a serious organisation that does good work. It is about children who have suffered due to mental health, due to online harm, a kind of area that Harry and Meghan are supposed to be active in. Although, apart from a launch video, we can't find any evidence that they've actually ever done anything. But anyway, they go up to collect these awards. We laughed at the fact they're getting these awards. Harry would go to the end of the earth to pick up any old award. Who can forget his Legend of Aviation award that he collected from John Travolta in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, when he couldn't even pass his helicopter pilot's test. He's not even a pilot. It's ridiculous. This guy will take a gong from anyone because he wants to look good in the papers, wants to look good on TV. He's got no shame like that. So we're laughing at Harry and Meghan getting these thoroughly undeserved Humanitarian of the Year awards. That's funny. But the work that Project Healthy Minds does is not funny. It's serious. It's important. And there's Meghan turning it into some sort of glamour trip. And when you see that long line of high heels and her walk-in wardrobe and her lipstick, you think, What happened to the domestic goddess who just liked pottering around on her beehives, making honey and jam? What happened to that? Oh, we're moving into another phase now. And the other thing to note about these videos, of course, is this kind of real pathetic walk-on bit part that Harry plays, standing around in the background while the star of the show hogs the limelight. That is, of course, his attention-seeking wife, Meghan. So yes, the video, totally inappropriate and totally all about Meghan. Meghan completely missing the point of what the hell she was doing in New York. But also, of course, she was there meeting the editor of American Vogue, Chloe Mal, I think her name is. And, you know, she wanted, you know, it's as if she's moving into, they called it, I think one of the papers called it Meghan Phase 3. You know, she's now giving up on as ever, giving up on the jam and the honey, the scam jam and the cookie dough, and moving into high fashion, hence the weird trip to Paris. The trip to Paris that friends of Harry in particular, but also friends of Meghan, are absolutely shocked that she made. No one can quite believe that she went back to Paris. Having told friends in the past, I can't ever go to Paris because that's where Harry's mom died. Harry won't go there, so I can't ever go there. And yet suddenly she pitches up for Paris Fashion Week. Nobody invited her. She invited herself. And you have to ask, why did she do that? Is it because she knew that being in Paris, the scene of Harry's mother's death, would get her lots of column inches? Was it deliberate? Was it a publicity stunt? I think the more we see of Meghan, the more we think that may be true.